talk. Joining us with us in the studio today is Go Work CEO and co-founder Vanessa Hendriadi. Good morning, Vanessa. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Paul. Good morning,
Welcome.
Russia. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here. So tell us about Go Work and how it started and how you were able to grow so far.
Yeah, sure. So I started the company 6 years ago,
Okay.
so 2016, early. At that time, I think there are a couple of other players in Indonesia already. I remember during those days, there are a lot of startups sprouting up also in Indonesia, and technology has really empowered the way we work. The idea came about because my background actually had nothing to do with what I'm doing now. So I studied engineering.
Oh, okay.
I was in the US and I was working there after I got my MBA, came back working for the family business, and then part of my responsibility was managing the real estate portfolio of the family business. Combine that with my passion and community, with people, I thought it's really good time for asset repurposing and creating a different space where people can work anywhere, right? And that's the idea, where the idea came about.
Okay,
Right.
so it actually just you know, considering your background, and you felt that there was a need for this as well.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
yeah.
now you have a lot of locations of Go Work. And I think Go Work has been one of the most recognizable name for co-working
Thank
space in
you.
Jakarta. How do you design it to be so beautifully designed, and what makes you different from other co-working spaces out there?
Yeah. So I have two other co-founding partners that is involved in the business. The Go Work today was actually a merger between the company I started in 2016 and the original Go Work to become the Go Work today. So one of our partners was the initial brain behind all the designs in Go Work. So we built a very strong internal team to make sure that we have the space that is inspiring, right? It, not just a good layout, but with a really nice lighting, a good ratio of common space and their private space as well. Because I think the idea of co-working spaces, for those of you who are not familiar, is that it's a space where a bunch of companies work together, right? It's very different than traditional office, where you go to an office and it's yours. It's your company only. Everybody knows each other, or maybe not, depending on how big you are. So co-working spaces are where a bunch of companies work together. So we need to make sure that there are enough private space, there are enough common space, so that the networking happens as well. But they also have their own spaces to work.
I see. So you started in 2016, then early 2020 we were hit with a pandemic.
That's right.
How did this affect the co-working business?
Yeah.
Especially because you know we've experienced it as well, where we have to work from home.
Yeah.
However, co-working co-working space is completely different. It's kind of like an entity on its own, because
That's right.
those that do work from home, some of them actually work from home, but they actually work in a co-working space.
Yeah.
So tell us how your business was affected early in the pandemic and how you were able to get through it.
Yeah, so I remember it very, very vividly. In March 2020 was when the first case in Indonesia was announced.
Right.
And after that, it was basically downhill,
Right.
right? Our industry was the one that got hit the most,
Okay.
Obviously because everyone was forced to not
Stay
leave
home.
their home.
Correct.
Yeah, but the work has to continue, right? So it was a very, very tough 2 years for us. We were faced with a lot of terminations, a lot of downsizing. Some of the companies, actually most of the companies still keep their space. But for example, before they had 100 people, and then they cut down to 50.
Right.
And then after a year, they were like, oh, you know what, it's actually fine to work from home, so maybe I won't keep my membership. So that was very, very challenging for us. However, what we did was we still continue to engage with our customers, our landlord, to make sure that we are still there to provide any solutions that is related to being productive at Go Work or at home,
Okay.
right? Yeah. So.
And did you find that, when we started coming out of this pandemic, a lot of, especially corporations, when they had to work with that 50-50 rule, not everyone can work at home. That's a problem. Like if you asked me to work at home, I couldn't be very productive at all. I've got too many little ones running around the house. So perhaps if my company, if I worked for a company that asked me to work from home for half the time, I may have to still look for a co-working space. Did you find that you had some of that rebound business as well?
Oh, I mean, definitely true. After the pandemic, if we see our clientele now, before the pandemic, I think 70% of the companies that work at GoWork are tech companies, startup, and 30% are the rest, right? Conventional companies or maybe some of the smaller businesses. However, now what we see is the ratio becomes more like 50-50. A lot of these conventional companies, they realize the importance, like you said, Paul, of allowing people to choose an office that is not that one office, right? They need to be able to work somewhere, get out of their home, especially if you have young kids, you know what I mean. It's just like impossible. So they are able to find locations like GoWork are not just in the central city of Jakarta, right? You're in BSD, we are in Peak, we are in the Central Park area, we are in the South area. So those are closer to the residential areas. So even though these companies have their headquarters somewhere, right? They still come to us and have this kind of flexible arrangement where they allow their employees to work from any GoWork location and still consider that as their office.
Yeah, I mean, I've read that large corporations like in the US even, like Google, Apple, they're allowing their employees to no longer have to, it's not
be bounded in like a certain location in office. And I think, what you mentioned is like the first year probably we're so afraid to go out and then we restrict ourselves at home. But then after 2 years working from home, it started to feel like a bit frustrating, not only because you have a lot of things going on at home, but you need that interaction, you need that networking, that your co-working space.
You need to have meetings sometimes.
Exactly, and I think like being in a space where you are actually working together with other people, solving problems, it actually helps you to solve your own problem at work, right?
Exactly.
So now after the pandemic, a lot of people started to go out, events started to happening, and especially in terms of content business, there's a lot of like there seemed like a boom in content business, whether it's visuals or audios. Like there's a lot of podcasts coming out. Now, in terms of growing facilities, how are you as a co-working space provider also provide that facilities to this growing creator economy?
Yeah. We did that even starting before the pandemic. So we had a couple of facilities in our locations that are specific to answer those needs for the content creators. We have a podcast room. We work with a couple of studios as well for some of our locations. However, we don't specifically use the facility just for content creators. What we do is each of our location is unique, right? So we allow anybody, like content creators, YouTubers, even movie producers, to come to GoWork and basically film at our locations. And that's actually one of the creative ideas that me and my team came up with during the pandemic.
That's actually a good idea. Like if you need an office scene, you don't necessarily have to just bother someone's office anymore. You can create one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not just employees these days that and content business that needs this. Education has also shifted, especially for post-secondary education. How are you catering? Do you have some of your core business as students and teachers as well?
Yes,
a lot of learning is online these days.
Yes, we do. With the location in Bali, we have one location in Bali in Park 23 Mall near the airport.
Right.
We have a German school there.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we have a couple of, like you said, the secondary kind of like level schools and education, where a lot of companies now do coding. Right. So we do have, we host some coding schools at GoWork. Instead of them having to rent a space permanently, they can move around, right? Which is great because some people, some people live in that area. I mean, they target people in the West, for example, so they can use our Central Park location, and then they wanted to go to North. They can use our peak location. So it actually gives them flexibility
Okay.
without having to actually invest in 5 offices on their own.
Right.
Right.
They can
Actually,
use-
I'm curious, since you mentioned it, do you do research on a particular, because you said you had 21 locations in Jakarta.
21 locations. Yeah,
Do you
Jakarta.
do you do research in a particular area before you decide to open a go-work there to decide what the necessities are to that particular area as opposed to others, so that you can kind of create the design that caters to it better than others, perhaps? Like
Yeah.
maybe one has more students in that particular area, and then you might create something that's more suitable for them. Is that something that you do?
Yeah, it is something that we do combined with also the demand that we
Right.
see, right?
Okay.
I think the strategy that we use in choosing locations early on, when we only had 1 or 2 locations, is very different than what we do now.
Okay.
Because when we had 1, 2 locations, there's just, I mean, there's a lot of
There's
headspace,
everything.
right? Yeah, there's like everything, right? We want to have like 10 locations, 15 locations in SCBD, and every building
Yes.
offers something that is unique, right? But now the way we look at locations, new locations, is because we have enough companies, I mean, we have a lot of companies that we host now. We follow their expansions, that's one, right? We also follow our landlords, because we work very closely with some of the major landlords in Indonesia.
Okay.
If they have a building somewhere in Medan, I mean, just like now, and then in Surabaya, or even different pockets of Jakarta, we research and then we speak we get a lot of inquiries, we kind of test it, right? You know, like which area do you guys want to have your office at?
Right.
So it's those kind of research, not just specifically in is this residential, or is there a campus here?
Because you can gather a
Yeah,
lot of data
data
from your
points.
partners.
Yeah,
Got
a
it.
lot of data
Okay.
points.
Okay, now in terms of co-working spaces and a lot of business are booming, what do you see the future of co-working space, and how are you planning to explore more in terms of facilitating different needs of this new businesses and technology?
Yeah. Yeah, so COVID, I feel like it's a blessing in disguise for us. It really became a catalyst for a lot of these companies to understand how to manage their team and how to manage their productivity when not everybody has to be in one place, right? Obviously, socio-economically wise, it's good for Jakarta as well, so the traffic is not so bad. Not everybody has to commute and arrive at the office at the same time. The opportunity for co-working space to really answer to the shift of how people work is limitless, I feel. To me, it has to be a facility that each building needs to have. Because when company go through their life cycle, they need to have the flexibility of, today I have 10 employees, tomorrow I might have 30, next month I might have 100. What kind of office, if there's no co-working space, how big of an office do I need to rent, right? Do I need to rent an office for 100 from day one, which means that they have to fork out that cost and fit out? What happens if I don't get there, right? But with this, it really helps these companies to go through that life cycle, and eventually when they're stable, they can have their own office, right? In the same building, right?
Right, exactly.
So it becomes, it's not a threat to landlord, but it becomes a necessary facility that each building, I feel, should have.
Yeah, I think it's more like it's just a good symbiotic relationship between the two these days, because both kind of need each other
Yeah,
in a way,
exactly.
and you can provide for each other.
That's
as well.
right. Yeah.
Where do you see yourself growing to? You mentioned that not only you have a lot of locations in Jakarta, but you did mention you have expanded to other cities as well. What's your goal outside of Jakarta? Because you do have, because outside Jakarta, it's very different than within a big city such as this. You can have many locations even in South Jakarta alone.
Yeah, yes.
But your strategy outside of Jakarta must be vastly different, because cities are smaller, or perhaps there's more urban areas than rural areas. So what's your strategy going forward for outside of Jakarta?
For outside of Jakarta, we see that like you said, Paul, the product offering might be slightly different than mega cities like Jakarta and
Sure.
Surabaya, Medan. The price point or that they can afford or they are willing to pay, the willingness to pay is probably slightly lower as well. but the opportunity is definitely
Okay.
definitely there, right? So we see that a slightly different offering, slightly different product and services depending on the needs of those markets. Second and third tier cities, we have been talking to some of the building owners there as well, not just office buildings, but also malls. I guess second and third cities, there are not that many office buildings. It's probably
Right,
like mostly
that's
malls
true.
and things like that, right?
Yeah, especially
Yeah.
MSMEs, like, because I believe with the connectivity that we have now across
Yes.
Indonesia, MSMEs are in need, but not every one of them really needs to have a permanent office space either.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure that the potential is definitely there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
So thank you so much, Vanessa, for joining us today. And
Thank
it's been
you.
great to have you here
Yes.
for Go Work. And how can we find out more about Go Work through your social media?
So social media, we're at Let's Go Work on Instagram, and then on the website, we're at go-work.com.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Awesome
cool.
stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so
Thank
much, Vanessa,
you.
for coming, and thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for sharing your thoughts also about the shift of the working and also the future of co-working space in Indonesia.
I'll make a visit.
Yeah, you
Definitely.
should.
Yes, yes. Let me know. I'll host you for coffee or even lunch.
Our Paul is doing his podcast in Goa.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
yeah, okay,
Yes.
and
We'll
there's
set
the-
up a space, nice space for you.
I have to shift my thoughts from sometimes you just need to get a little bit of work done. And you know, we always like, let's go to a coffee shop. It's like, we don't have to
Yes,
anymore.
Yes,
Oh,
yes, yes,
yeah.
yes.
And also
Right.
you'll be there with people that are also working, right?
Like-minded
So-
people.
Yeah, like-minded
That's
people,
right,
that's
exactly.
right. Very
All right, guys, we're going for a quick break now, but when we return, we do have a recap in case you missed our earlier segment. Stay tuned at the C Morning Show. We'll be right back.